Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel today. Tomorrow is officially the first game of the NFL season, so I wanted to make a power rankings video before the season started. I wanted to wait till all the preseason games were done, till all the roster cutdowns were done, because now I have a much better idea of what I think about each team. So this is going to be the first edition of these rankings, and I do plan on making one of these every single week throughout the duration of the NFL season. And I want you guys to let me know what you think of these rankings down below. Some of these are going to age terribly, and I think some of these are going to age pretty well. But as usual, we are going to go in reverse numerical order, so make sure you watch the whole video to see my entire ranking. Another quick note is that I broke up the power rankings into 4 tiers. The top tier is going to be Super Bowl teams, the next tier is going to be some playoff teams, the tier below that will be mid teams, and the tier we're about to talk about is dog shit. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Starting off with number 32 on my power rankings, I got the Arizona Cardinals. There's just not a lot to look forward to about the Arizona Cardinals this year. They are a mess at quarterback. They probably just traded for their starting quarterback in Josh Jacobs. Maybe it's Clayton Tune. Maybe it's David Blau. Either way, they're not going to be good this year. The offense is not good either. They're going to be relying a lot on James Conner, and then that defense is disgusting. That defense is going to be dreadful. They were one of the worst units in the NFL last year, and I don't think that they're going to get much better. So I think the Arizona Cardinals are a pretty easy pick to be the worst team in the NFL this year. I think they're going to be a team that tanks this year to try to get that first overall pick. Whether they take Caleb Williams or whether they trade it is yet to be seen. But they're going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. I don't know if they will move up a whole lot throughout the course of this NFL season. My next team is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming at number 31. Kind of similar to the Cardinals. I do think they're a little bit better. I do think that they are a little bit better at quarterback with Baker Mayfield. I think their offense has a little bit more talent, especially in the wide receiver department. And their defense is definitely better than the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the reason that I have them at 31 is because I don't love the direction this team is going, right? They're getting older. They don't have a good quarterback. I don't love their head coach at all. I think he's one of the worst head coaches in the NFL in Todd Bowles. And to be completely honest with you, I don't know that they'll be competitive in a lot of games this year. I have them at 31. Maybe that's a bit too harsh because, Baker is, I guess, a veteran quarterback. But, yeah, I don't have high hopes for the Buccaneers this year, unfortunately. Coming in at number 30 with the Houston Texans. Now, this isn't so much of a bad thing, right? They are a young team. They're a very inexperienced team. DeMeco Ryans is a first-time head coach. They have 2 picks in the top 3 of this year's draft, Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud. They are going to be good players eventually. Will Anderson will probably be better in year 1 than C.J. Stroud is, but across the board, the Texans are a very young team. They're a very inexperienced team. You got receivers like John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Who knows if they're going to be good? That defense is probably not going to be very good. Unfortunately, I understand DeMeco Ryans, schematically speaking, is going to shape them into be a pretty good unit, but I don't think that they'll be good in year 1. I don't think the offense is going to be very good year 1. Dameon Pierce is an okay running back. There's nothing special there, but I think that the Houston Texans are going to be young. They are going to be a team that is building for the future, and I don't expect a lot of big things in 2023. Number 29, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a team that I don't share a lot of optimism with that I do with the Texans. The Raiders are kind of going in the wrong direction pretty much across the board. They gave Jimmy Garoppolo $67 million to be their quarterback for the next 3 seasons, and while I don't think that he will play the duration of that contract, the fact that they gave him $67 million to begin with is a travesty. They have Josh McDaniels, who is one of the worst coaches in the NFL, but they're kind of stuck with him because they don't want to fire him, pay John Gruden, and pay whatever new coach they hired. It's a complete mess in Las Vegas, complete downgrade from what Derek Carr was running a few years ago. Josh Jacobs is probably out the door this year. Let's be honest here. And Davante Adams is getting older. And, defensively, outside of maybe a few pass rushers, they are just a dumpster fire. So, again, the Raiders are not going to be a good team. They're in a loaded division with the Chargers and Chiefs and potentially the Broncos. They're in a loaded division. They have a bad coach, they have a bad quarterback, and they have a bad defense. So not a lot of good things going on in Vegas right now, except for, the brothels that are offering Jimmy G all that free, you know what. Next at number 28, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I will say, out of all the teams in this bottom tier, in this dog shit category that I have, the Rams by far have the best coach. I actually do really, really like Sean McVay. He is a great coach. So why would I have the Rams at number 28? It's because they have completely fallen off a cliff since the Super Bowl. If this isn't any indicator that they are a completely rebranded team, let me tell you that 14 rookies have just made the team for the Rams. 14 rookies. They are going to be one of the most inexperienced and talent devoid teams in the NFL. Matthew Stafford is still a decent quarterback. Yes, he's been dealing with injuries. His elbow injuries, neck injuries. I heard he had some back injuries. That's a lot. Aaron Donald, he's still really dominant. But again, you're paying an aging defensive lineman $31.5 million when you don't have a lot else on your roster. And Cooper Kupp, the other really, really good player on this team, he's now dealing with a hamstring injury. So I don't have a medical degree. I don't have a prognosis on him, but I imagine that hamstring lingers for at least some points during the year and limits what he would be able to do. That's the big three of the Rams right there. Outside of that big three, this team is just a desert of just nobodies. I mean, they have not a lot of talent on this team at all. It's going to be a hard season for the Rams, and I wonder if Sean McVay is the head coach of the Rams next year, or if he jumps and he wants to go, be on TV, which he's handsome enough to do it, so might as well. At 27, I have the Carolina Panthers. Kind of the same situation with the Texans. I'm not really going to be too upset if I'm a Carolina Panthers fan and they're bad this year. Although, just like the Panthers, they don't have their first-round pick next year. But I digress. So the Panthers, first-round pick, first overall pick, in fact, Bryce Young. That's going to be the main storyline throughout the whole year. Watching Bryce Young, how is he developing? How is he, maturing? How is he developing to the NFL game, right? Outside of Bryce Young, the offense doesn't have a lot of good skill guys. I don't love Miles Sanders. I don't love the receivers. Adam Thielen could be nice, like a veteran presence. And that offensive line is probably not as good as I thought. Unfortunately, I talked about it a little bit ago in the overrated players video. I think Ike Ekwonu I probably had a little bit higher than I should have, but it's whatever. Their defense, yes, they do have some pieces, but this is a rebuild for the Panthers, right? You do not have the first overall pick for no reason. And I understand that they didn't organically have it. They had to trade for it. But the fact that they felt the need to trade for it tells you kind of where this team is right now. Don't expect a lot of big things from Carolina in 2023. However, they're building something nice, so they will be good eventually. At number 26, the Tennessee Titans. Listen, man, I feel bad for Titans fans. A few years ago, you were rocking in the AFC Championship game, and now you're sitting in a spot kind of in no man's land, right? Quarterback is a mess right now. Is it Ryan Tannehill? Is it going to be Malik Willis, who has had a pretty good preseason? Your offensive line, up until this point, stinks. To be completely honest with you, I think that Andre Dillard is not the best, and I think that Peter Skoronski is probably not long enough, to play offensive tackle. And your receiver room is really bad. Obviously, the saving grace for this offense for years has been Derrick Henry. But at what point do we start to see the Derrick Henry decline, where his age catches up to him a little bit? He's got a lot of tread on those tires. And I understand that nobody wants to have the conversation of Derrick Henry, declining a little bit, but it's going to happen eventually, and it's probably going to happen sooner than you think. On the defensive side of the ball, they have some nice players, especially in the front seven, but I worry about their defensive backfield, right? Caleb Farley, so far, has been a massive bust. And Mike Vrabel is a good coach, and I think he will squeeze as much wins out of this team as he possibly can. But I just look at this roster, and I am just not impressed at all. I have the Titans at number 26. For number 25, and the last team in this dog shit category, it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. Naming Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts is good for his development, I think. But it is not good for the record of the 2023 Indianapolis Colts. I think he will struggle in his rookie season throwing the football and adjusting to the NFL level. Additionally, let's address the elephant in the room. This Jonathan Taylor situation is weird as hell. He was officially put on the PUP list, which means he's going to miss the first 4 games of the year. He's going to miss a quarter of the year automatically. And when he comes back, I don't know how he's going to be. He seems pretty pissed off with the Colts. Can't say I blame him. But, yeah, it's a weird situation going on right now in Indianapolis. Their defense isn't very good. Again, you really just want to pray that Jonathan Taylor is back, and or what you really want to pray for is that Anthony Richardson is that guy at quarterback, which I think he can be, to be completely honest with you. So, but the Colts, not a very talented team this year. They do luck out because they do play in a bad division. If you notice, 3 of the 4 AFC South teams are in the dog shit category. Can't say that's a mistake, but the Colts are not going to be very good this year, so don't expect high things. All right, moving into a category of teams that are mid. Some of these teams in this tier, it's kind of hard to get a read on them, just to be completely honest with you, but I do feel strongly about a few of these teams being not bad, but not good, and kind of in that middle ground right there. At number 24, I got the Washington Commanders. This is a team that I think could fluctuate a little bit depending on the success of Eric Bieniemy's offense, most specifically with Sam Howell. How does he perform? How does he operate this offense? That will kind of deter if they move up a few spots or not. But this defensive line has been good for a few years now, and if Chase Young can be on the field, and Montez Sweat, and De'Aaron Payne, and Jonathan Allen, I mean, that is a very, very good front four. It's one of the better front fours in the NFL. I don't love Ron Rivera as their head coach, to be completely honest with you. And like I said, we don't know how Eric Bieniemy will be out of the shadow of Andy Reid. This team is a big question mark to me. Again, I just really don't know. I'm going to put them here as like a conservative spot. Like I said, I do think they can move up a little bit. They are in a really good division, though, with the Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants, all three teams who won playoff games last year. And while I don't think all of those teams are going to be playoff winners again this year, it is one of the better divisions in the NFL, I will say. Next, number 23, this is another team that I don't know what to do with, man. The Green Bay Packers. It all depends on how good Jordan Love is. If Jordan Love is a stud, they move up. If Jordan Love isn't, they move down. I don't like their receiver room. It is really, really young. I think the oldest receiver they have is like 24 years old. And Christian Watson is good. He was good in spurts last year. I'm not high on Romeo Doubs. They have some other guys like Musgrave and everything like that they like as pass catchers, which is fine. I think the offensive line is getting a little bit older and getting a little bit beat up, and the defense will be fine. The defense will be pretty good. It'll probably be a top 12-ish unit in the NFL, and they'll be all right. But again, it all depends on how good Jordan Love is. And so when I make this list throughout the year, I'm going to look at how good Jordan Love's playing and how impressed I am with him, and that'll determine where I move the Packers up or down. At number 22, I'm going to have to put the New England Patriots. I am not a fan of Mac Jones. I'll be real with you. I'm not a fan of Mac Jones. I think he's a very limited quarterback, and I think that the offense is always going to have a floor. Is always going to have a ceiling with Mac Jones, right? There's always going to be a ceiling that you can't cross. You can never be an elite offense with Mac Jones as your quarterback. Now, their offense will be better now that it's run by an actual offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien. If you guys remember, Bill O'Brien was formerly the Patriots. He was on the Patriots. He went to Penn State, Houston, Alabama. He's had good success with offenses, I will say. Not as general manager, obviously, but as an offensive guy, he's had pretty good success. And I just worry that I don't think the Patriots have enough skill position players. I think the Ramondre Stevenson is once again going to have to carry this offense on his back, which he did for some parts of last season. I won't lie, but the receiver room of like Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, it's not moving me at all, unfortunately. Now, the defense is moving me a little bit. I really like Matthew Judon, obviously. Christian Gonzalez is probably my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to be able to cook with Bill Belichick. But again, loaded division. One of the best divisions in the NFL, the Jets, Bills, and Dolphins. And out of everybody, I think they have the worst quarterback and they have the worst roster overall. So I kind of have to put them at 22. At number 21, I got the Denver Broncos. And I expect the Denver Broncos to be better than last year. It's kind of hard not to be. Last year was a total disaster for Russell Wilson, for the Broncos organization. Bringing in a legit coach in Sean Payton is going to stabilize some things. Do I think that they're a playoff team? Maybe. If everything breaks right for them, if Javonte Williams is able to come back and have a good season, if Russell Wilson is somewhat back to his Seattle form, if that defense can stay elite, they might be able to sneak into the playoffs. Will everything break in their favor? Probably not. We're probably looking at 2, 3, maybe 4 of the things I just mentioned. But I do think the Broncos are going to be better than last year, and I do think that they will be a much more competently run team. Sean Payton, like we know, is a legit coach. He knows how to run a team. Nathaniel Hackett put his play calling and his clock management aside. He just seemed like he didn't know how to run the team. Sean Payton knows how to run a team. He's a Super Bowl winner. And the Broncos will be better. Again, their division is really, really good with the Chargers and Chiefs on top. And I do worry about the fact of Russell Wilson maybe having fallen off a cliff a little bit. I'll put him at 21 for right now, and then I'll reevaluate as the season goes on. At number 20, got the Chicago Bears. The Bears are an interesting team because a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about the Bears. I've seen some people say the Bears are going to win the North, and I've seen other people say that the Bears are going to have a top 5 pick next year. I'm going to put myself a little bit in the middle there. I'm going to say the Bears will be a lot better this year. I think the offense is going to be better. The passing offense specifically is going to be better. Will Justin Fields run for 1,000 yards again? Probably not. But again, that defense will be better. Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards at linebacker is great. They did get some addition with Yannick Ngakoue as the edge rusher to rush the passer. My big issue with this defense, though, is the run defense. Their interior D line to me is still just hot ass. I think they're going to get run up and down the field on, and that's a big problem. That is a really big problem. I do think that their running back room, as it currently stands, is a little bit weak. You guys know I like Khalil Herbert, but I don't love him as like your running back one. And obviously they have better receivers now. So this team again just really depends on Justin Fields if he's able to take that leap. If he stays the same, where Justin Fields lies, this team will go. I do think they have a ceiling. I think at best case scenario they'll probably go 9-8. I just think their defense isn't good enough to be a legit double-digit win team. But I think they could win 9 games, but they could also win 5 or 6. Right? There's a little bit of variance there. I'll put them at 20 and I'll reevaluate it. At number 19 for the New Orleans Saints, this team is kind of just boring to me. Derek Carr is a good, not great quarterback. Their defense is probably going to be good, not great, although they are getting much older. Their offensive line, I don't love it. I don't love Trevor Penning at left tackle, to be completely honest with you, but I do really like their wide receivers. Chris Olave, I love. Michael Thomas, if he can get back to form, it was really, really good, obviously. I like A.T. Perry. I like some of these other guys. I love Juwan Johnson at tight end. He's one of the most underrated players in the NFL, in my opinion. This team is going to be, they're going to be okay. They're in a bad division. I do worry about Dennis Allen really holding this team down. But honestly, the Saints, they'll be okay. They're going to win anywhere from 7 to 10 games in that range. They're not going to be ass. They're not going to be really, really good. They're going to be okay. Maybe they win the South. Maybe they don't. Another team that could or could not win the South is the Atlanta Falcons. I put them at number 18 because I don't know what's going on at quarterback with Desmond Ridder. I don't know if I like him or not. He wasn't really impressive to me in the preseason. But I can't ignore their skill position talent. Bijan Robinson, I think, is going to set the league on fire. Kyle Pitts is still the most dominant tight end in the NFL when he's actually getting the ball in his hands, not named Travis Kelce. And Drake London, I think, is going to be really good as well. And their offensive line is actually pretty good. They're going to be able to run the ball very, very well. And if they go up against a team that cannot stop the run, the Falcons will control that game. They will have a stranglehold on that game. Problem is, I think that their defense isn't great. It's not garbage. It'll probably be 20th-ish. AJ Terrell's good. Don't love Jeff Okudah. They did make some additions for Jesse Bates. I think they're paying a little too much for an aging safety, if you're asking me, but you're not, so whatever. But yeah, I think the Falcons, again, kind of the same. It's a coin flip on who wins the South. Falcons, Saints, kind of whoever. I might take the Falcons as of right now, but that could change. Number 17, I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are a team that I project to be a lot worse than they were last year, right? I mention this stat all the time, 11-0 in one-score games. That is not going to happen again. It's not going to happen. Kirk Cousins, he's still going to be a good, not great quarterback. Obviously, now the receiver room is really good with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I still think that their defense is bad. I know they got Brian Flores, but the personnel on the field is just still not good. It's not. They lost Patrick Peterson, who was a really good corner for them last year. I don't know what you want me to say. The defense is going to be really bad, and now that they can't run the football or won't be able to run the football as much with the loss of Dalvin Cook, I think this makes this team a lot worse. I think their luck's going to run out a little bit, and I have them being a slightly below average team this year. All right, so now we're getting into the teams that I think could be in the mix for the playoffs. Now, some of these teams are maybe competing for wildcard spots, but other one of these teams, they could be legitimate division winners. I'm going to start off at number 16 with the New York Giants. I'm going to say it right now, I'm not a Daniel Jones guy. Do not count me amongst the Daniel Jones enjoyers. However, I am a Brian Daboll guy, and I think the job that he's done in New York in just a season to completely turn around that franchise shouldn't go unnoticed. So I really do like the coach that they have. And honestly, if he can limit the turnovers that Daniel Jones is committing, the offense will be functional, right? Darren Waller, I think, is a good upgrade at tight end. They still really don't have receivers, unfortunately. And I do think that last year the offense ran a lot through Saquon Barkley, which is great if he can stay healthy, which at certain points in his career he has been injured, obviously. And obviously I hope he stays healthy. But if this offense is going to run through Saquon Barkley, you better hope he stays healthy for another year. I don't love that they're giving Daniel Jones, $37, $40 million a year, something like that. Don't love that. But the Giants are a well-coached team. They won a playoff game last year, and I'm not going to completely just knock them off the board. I'll put them at number 16. At number 15, I have a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers that are kind of always just solid. they're always just kind of solid, right? Mike Tomlin is one of those coaches that he'll always coach his guys up to a certain level, regardless of who's on the roster. Now, do I see the Steelers being legitimate, like Super Bowl contenders? No. Do I see the Steelers being in the mix for the playoffs come the end of the year? Yes, I do. And that is because I think there's going to be an improvement from Kenny Pickett. There is going to be an improvement. I think the offense will be better. It'll be better blocked at the very least. He'll have, I think, a better connection with George Pickens this year. And then, as we all know, that Steelers defense is going to be really good next year. It's probably going to be top 5, especially if TJ Watt plays the majority of games. He is one of the best game-changing defensive players that we have in the National Football League. The Steelers at number 15, that to me that feels about right. They're not a great roster. They play in a pretty good division, but they're always well coached. They're going to play good defense, and I think if their quarterback is better, they could definitely vie for a playoff spot. At number 14, I have a team just above them in the Cleveland Browns. The only reason I have the Browns above the Steelers is because Deshaun Watson, if he is what he was in Houston, he's that dude, right? Also have Nick Chubb, who is, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL. I know you guys probably think I'm fucking crazy. I love Nick Chubb. I think he's great. They have a lot of high-end talent. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, like I said, Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper was very underrated. He had a very good year last year. The problem with the Browns has never been putting guys on the roster. It is executing to their best ability, and they have not done that. And I'm not going to get sucked into the Browns are going to be a legit playoff team. Browns are going to win the Super Bowl. None of that. I'm saying at my pick 14 that they could potentially be a playoff team, and they could potentially get one of the wild card spots in the AFC, and that's what I'll say about the Cleveland Browns. At number 13, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers last year actually overcame a lot. They had a lot of injuries that they were dealing with. Rashawn Slater, Derwin James, Joey Bosa all missed a lot of time. I think Khalil Mack missed time as well. The constant for the Chargers, though, has been Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has been phenomenal. I think Brandon Staley has held them back a little bit, but with incoming offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, I think they're going to throw the ball all over the yard a lot. I think it's going to be probably the best season of Justin Herbert's career. And I honestly do think this Chargers offense is going to go to a different level, especially with the addition of Quentin Johnston. Now that defense, I think it will be good if they can stay healthy, and that's a big thing for the Chargers. But if they can stay healthy, I think this is a top 10 defense in the NFL as well. They do have to play the Chiefs in their division. It's tough. They do have to play in the AFC, which is by far the better conference to the NFC. But I do think the Chargers are a good enough team. They have enough talent to where they could possibly get the 5 or the 6 seed in the AFC. At number 12, we have the Detroit Lions. Everybody's hyping up the Lions. Everybody's saying that the Lions are going to be super good this year. And to a certain degree, I agree with them. But I'm also going to be hesitant because it is the Lions, right? Jared Goff is getting a little overhyped in this offseason. I'm not going to lie. But to say that the Lions haven't made improvements to their roster would be a lie. Jahmyr Gibbs, I love. I do also love the additions they made on defense. Brian Branch. I love C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I love even Jack Campbell. I thought filled a good need for them. They have good young talent with Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. And if this team can play like they played in the second half of last season, they are probably going to win the North. It's not a very difficult division in my opinion, and they probably have the best roster in the North by a decent bit. I think they're going to win the North, and I think that they're probably going to be the 3 seed in the NFC. The number 11 seed in the NFL for me is going to be a team that has also been getting a lot of media attention this summer, the New York Jets. The New York Jets, I wonder why they're getting attention. Maybe it's because they play in New York, just got Aaron Rodgers, or have been featured on Hard Knocks. Take your pick on one of those 3. But the Jets are going to be, I think, legitimately really good. They won 7 games last year with 3 of the statistically worst quarterbacks in the NFL, Mike White, Zach Wilson, and Joe Flacco, and Chris Streveler, whatever his name was. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a huge upgrade from that. Aaron Rodgers, even if he isn't the Aaron Rodgers he was a few seasons ago when he won back-to-back MVPs, he is going to be probably the best quarterback the Jets have ever had. And pair that with a young Garrett Wilson coming off of his Rookie of the Year season. Pair that also with a Sauce Gardner finish top of the Rookie of the Year leaderboards on his side of the ball. And you have a team that is very young, very talented, and I think willing and eager to get one of those first AFC wildcard spots. I do see the Jets getting that, and I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. Going into number 10, I'm going to have to put my Seattle Seahawks. Now, you might say this is a domer pick. You might say I'm just being biased. I really don't think so. Here's a team in Seattle that won 9 games last year. Not only did they get better in the draft by adding Devin Witherspoon, who will recover from his injury, I promise, the best receiver in the draft in Jackson Smith and Jigba. They got a Thunder to Kenneth Walker's Lightning and Zach Charbonnet. They improved the defensive line with Derek Hall. Additionally, Boye Mafe has been making big improvements. They have a lot of new free agent signings, most notably Bobby Wagner and Draymond Jones to help that front seven. If you really think about it, last year the Seahawks were a really, really good team, but they had a kryptonite, and that was run defense. They were 30th in run defense. If they can be better than 30th in run defense, I think they win at least one or two more of those games last year, and then you're looking at an 11-win team. To me, they aren't up to the 49ers just yet, but they're getting close. They're getting close, and I do expect Geno Smith to replicate what he did last year, at least to a certain degree, and I think the Seahawks are going to be a 10-plus win team. At number 9, though, just above them, I have the Baltimore Ravens, who I also have being one of the top seeds in the AFC wildcard race. What's there to say? Lamar Jackson is phenomenal. He's got the best receiving room of his career by a long shot. He's got a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, and that defense is always going to be reliable with Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey, I think, being the superstars. Watch out for David Ojabo as well. The Ravens, they're going to be in a tight race, I think, with the Bengals for the AFC North title. I don't know if they necessarily get it, but I do know that they're going to be a playoff team if Lamar stays healthy. I think this new offense is going to be awesome, and I really do think that the Ravens are going to be a hard matchup for whatever division winner they match up with in the AFC playoffs. So now getting into my top 8, these are the Super Bowl teams. These are the teams that I think are the 8 best teams in the NFL, teams that I think can legit contend for a Lombardi this year. Starting off with number 8, the Miami Dolphins. This is assuming that Tua can stay healthy for the majority of the year. Tua, when he was on the field last year, this offense was one of the best offenses in the NFL. They have Tua, they have Tyreek, they have Jalen Waddle. They should have Jonathan Taylor, but whatever. Just kidding. This offense is going to be really, really, really good. We know this. What we also know, hopefully, is that Vic Fangio is going to make this defense much better. I understand that they won't have Jalen Ramsey till probably, Thanksgiving or later, which is fine. Vic Fangio is going to make this Dolphins defense so much better than it is. David Long is an awesome linebacker, and I think this Dolphins defense, they're going to be more turnover prone, they're going to make more plays, and they're going to get the ball into his hands more to score more points. Number 7, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I understand that everybody overhypes the Dallas Cowboys, and to a certain degree, I guess I'm doing that as well, but I can't ignore how good these guys are on paper. Good quarterback, not great, in Dak Prescott, really good receiver in CeeDee Lamb, really good running back in Tony Pollard, a good complementary piece with Brandon Cooks, and that defense is special. Dan Quinn is going to lead one of the best units in the NFL. I think they're going to be a top 3 defense this year. Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, they're going to love it. I don't love Mike McCarthy, and obviously the Eagles are atop their division, but I have the Cowboys at 7, and I think that they could win another playoff game this year and then lose to the 49ers. Speaking of the 49ers, I have them at number 6. Now, I initially had them in the top 5, but there's still some question marks with quarterback, and I can't feel comfortable putting a team in the top 5 unless I know for a fact they have a good quarterback. But what else can you say? This defense is phenomenal. Fred Warner. I will also mention the Nick Bosa contract situation could get ugly if it isn't resolved soon. We'll just put a pin in that. Defense is phenomenal. The rest of the skill guys on offense are phenomenal. I think Kyle Shanahan is phenomenal. This team is going to be really good. They're probably going to win the NFC West, unfortunately, and they're probably going to be the number 2 seed in the NFC. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. People are kind of jumping off the Bills bandwagon this offseason, and I would be lying if I said that I wasn't one of them initially, but I'm looking at this team and I'm like, hey, man, they still got Josh Allen. They still got Stephon Diggs. They still got a pretty good defense. I understand they'll have some pieces, but I still think that they're going to be a top team in the AFC East. They have by far the best quarterback, I think, in that division. And when you have Josh Allen, I think you always have a chance, right? So this team is not garbage around him. They're actually pretty good. And I think that they are a Super Bowl contender and a top 5 team. But a team that I think is really ballsy to put up here at number 4, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to push all my chips on the table for the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 4. I am in love with Trevor Lawrence. I love him. I actually really do. Travis Etienne is also a really good running back. I think Calvin Ridley is going to have a massive year at wide receiver. I love what Doug Peterson has done, completely turned him around from what Urban Meyer fucked up a couple years ago. And I think that defense is young and improving. They also play in a terrible division, and they have a pretty easy schedule. Watch out for the Jacksonville Jaguars, potentially becoming the number 1 seed in the AFC. Yes, I said it. At number 3, though, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Back-to-back, at least AFC Championship game appearances for the Bengals. When you have Joe Burrow, you're always going to be good. It just so helps that they have the best receiving duo in the NFL with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That offensive line still isn't great. I think Orlando Brown is probably an upgrade barely from Jonah Williams at left tackle. But their offense is going to be good. They're going to put up points. And that Bengals defense has been very underrated for a few years now. Come playoff time, they are going to be the difference makers. They are going to make plays. And they have limited a lot of their opponents to under 20 points in the playoffs. That is huge. And that is going to help them go far again this year. At number 2, though, the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning champs of the NFL. Mahomes, Kelsey, pretty much all they need. They are pretty thin at wide receiver. They are pretty thin at defensive line, especially with Chris Jones holding out. And their defensive backfield is pretty young. But with Andy Reid and with Steve Spagnuolo coaching that team the way they do, I don't necessarily think it's going to stop them. That's kind of been the formula for the past few years. And again, when you have the best football player on planet Earth, you are going to be a damn good team. That's just a fact. Ending it off at number 1 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Top to bottom, this is the best roster in the NFL. Now, my only concerns is the fact that they did lose their offensive and defensive coordinators, which is kind of unprecedented. I do love the defensive coordinator, though, they have now in Sean Desai. I loved him in Seattle last year. I loved him with the Bears a few years ago. He's going to be a good defensive coordinator. What else do you want me to say? Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. The offensive line is the best in the NFL. The defensive line is the best in the NFL. Their defensive backs are a little bit old, but they're still going to hold up just fine. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL as we speak, and until they play and prove me otherwise, I'm going to keep them at number 1. That is the video on the first power rankings for the NFL season. I'm very, very excited for the start of the season tomorrow. And like I said, I'll be hoping to update the series at least once a week. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.